Hello and welcome back to Bicyclelegs and another edition of Studio Albums Ranked. Today we're going to be looking at the wonderful singer-songwriter from New York, Billy Joel. He's been a favourite of mine since I was a kid. Just wonderful, wonderful music. 12 studio albums in all, just so we know. Obviously in these shows I don't cover compilation albums, I don't cover live albums. There's one other album I will be leaving out of this list, and that is his album of classical solo piano pieces, which I think is called Fantasies and Delusions, just because I think it's really unfair to compare that with a catalogue of, pop, rock, singer-songwriter music. It really, it would stick out like a sore thumb. It really wouldn't be fair to compare it with all these other albums. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be looking at his 12 sort of regular rock albums that he recorded between 1971 and 1993, ranking them in my order of personal preference. I'm not saying this is best or worst, I'm just saying this is how I like these albums the best. Now, a couple of these albums I don't actually have physical copies of, although I know the albums very, very well. In fact, in preparation for this show, I've been listening to nothing but Billy Joel in the car for the last couple of weeks. So I'm really familiar with the material, it's fresh in my mind, and I've come up, even though at the very last minute I swapped a couple of these albums around as for where I would rank them. So let's get into it, and we'll start at my number 12, which is one of the two that I don't have a physical copy of, and that is his last album from 1993, and that is River of Dreams. It's an album I quite like. It's just I don't think I like it as much as I like the other albums in his catalogue. I mean, the title track is really good, and All About Soul is a good song, and there's some nice music on it. It's definitely going for a more soulful feel than other Billy Joel albums. I just prefer his other albums, and that's all I can really say about that. It's still a good album. It's still worth listening to, I think. There isn't a bad Billy Joel album as far as I'm concerned. My number 11 is going to be his album from 1986. And that is The Bridge. This has got some really good songs on it. The title track, the opening track rather, Running on Ice, is really, really good. Matter of Trust, I always thought was a really good single. Modern Woman, musically I quite like it. Lyrically, maybe not so much. Baby Grand is a beautiful duet that he does with Ray Charles. Big Man on Mulberry Street's a good song. Code of Silence has Cyndi Lauper doing some background vocals, and I really, really like that track too. It's a good album. Again, I just like some of these other albums better. These bottom three are all albums that I quite like. They're from his later period, but I just like the earlier Billy Joel better. That's just, again, my personal preference. So my number 10 is going to be his 1989 album, which is Stormfront. This has obviously the massive, massive hit We Didn't Start the Fire on it, which I still think that's a really good song. Downeaster Alexa I really like. That's Not Her Style is the opening track. I Go to Extremes was another big song for him on this. The title track's good. Leningrad is a heartfelt song about his tour that he did to the Soviet Union as it was at the time. Yeah, good album. My number 9 is going to be the other one that I don't have a physical copy of, and that's his very first album, and that is Cold Spring Harbor. Cold Spring Harbor is a good album. It could have been a better album if they hadn't messed up the recording of it, because what happened with this album is when it was originally released, they did a really bad job of mastering it, and they mastered it way too fast. And so Billy Joel sounds a bit like a chipmunk, which is really a shame. They did re-release it in 1983, and they speed corrected it, but they also edited some of the tracks. They chopped off some really cool outros on a couple of the songs. They also overdubbed some instruments, so it's probably better than the original, but it's still not a perfect. I actually have a digital copy of the original mix, but speed corrected, and that's what I tend to listen to, and I really enjoy the album that way. I mean, it has one of his early classics, which is She's Got Away, beautiful song. Everybody Loves You Now. I really enjoy that song. There's a fabulous version of that on his live album Songs from the Attic, which is an album I definitely recommend. I don't include it here because I'm only doing studio albums, but it's a really good live album in as much as, rather than just going for a greatest hits kind of live album like a lot of people did, what he did was he took songs from his first 4 albums or so that weren't very well known, and he played those live with his touring band, because he hadn't recorded most of those albums with his touring band. He'd done it with session musicians. And I find that most of the live versions of those early songs on Songs from the Attic are actually better than the versions that you get on the studio albums. My number 8 is going to probably be a bit higher for some people. It's his second album from 1973, and that is Piano Man. I mean, it's got the title track, which was the first song that really broke through for him and made him, had a hit single for him, made him famous. It took a little while before he really, took another couple of albums before he really sort of got into the zeitgeist of the music industry and the charts and what have you. But this album was his first sort of success. It's got some other really good songs on here. I mean, I feel like this album and Cold Spring Harbor are the 2 albums where he owes a debt to Elton John. You know, the style of the music, the orchestrations that are on some of the tracks, but also the dealing with Western themes and stuff. That was sort of early Elton John did that quite a lot. But this has also got Captain Jack, which is a classic track. Absolutely love that. You're My Home is a beautiful song. The Ballad of Billy the Kid is that sort of, you know, Western themed song that I'm talking about. Yeah, it's a really good album. This is where I swapped a couple of them around. This album is definitely going to be higher on a lot of people's lists, and I definitely get that. I kind of struggled with the fact that I've put this album as low as I did, and I even swapped it slightly in my list just this morning. And that is his album from 1982, The Nylon Curtain. Now for me, this album is his most serious album as far as lyrical content, but also as far as musical content goes. There's not really, like, on a lot of Billy Joel albums, I think you get the serious songs, but you also get the more playful songs. This really concentrates on the serious stuff. There's not a lot of the more playful Elton John on this, Billy Joel, I'm getting them mixed up now. There's not a lot of the playful Billy Joel on this album. There are some wonderful songs on here, but then there are some songs that I don't think quite hold up. The wonderful songs are things like Allentown and Pressure and Goodnight Saigon and She's Right on Time. Yeah, Scandinavian Skies. It is a bit of a peaks and valleys album for me. And I know a lot of people think this was his sort of real sort of, you know, artistic breakthrough and whatever. And I can hear that and I get that. I just, when I'm ranking these albums, I go for which albums do I enjoy the most. And as much as I enjoy this album, I enjoy the next 6 better. So that's why I've ranked these where I ranked them. My number 6 is going to be his album from 1978, and that is 52nd Street. Now, I know my son is a bit disappointed that I've ranked this one as low as I have. From here on in, these are all, for me, absolute classic Billy Joel albums. You really can't get much better than these top 6 albums as far as I'm concerned. So these were quite hard to rank, especially my top 3 or 4. But this has got Big Shot, big hit for him. Honesty is a good song. Not as good as some of the other big hits on this album. My Life, wonderful song. Then you've got Zanzibar. That song sort of gotten a life of its own over the last couple of years as being very big on TikTok, funnily enough. Stiletto, Rosalinda's Eyes is a really beautiful song. Half a Mile Away, Until the Night, and then 52nd Street, a little song that ends, the title track. I really, really like that song too. So getting into my top 5 now. At number 5, we're going to have his album from 1976, and that is Turnstiles. This was his album that he recorded after he'd returned from Los Angeles back to New York, his native town. And that move back from LA to New York really does flavour this album lyrically. I mean, you've got Say Goodbye to Hollywood. You've got New York State of Mind. You've got Miami 217, See the Lights Go Down on Broadway. But you've also got All You Want to Do Is Dance, which has a bit of a reggae flavour to it. You've got James, which is a great character study. You've got Prelude and Angry Young Man. I always loved that prelude, the really, really hammering piano. And then the song Angry Young Man is a very witty song, sort of idea of sort of anti-idealism. I don't think that that's necessarily how Billy Joel felt, but you know, that's how the character in that song feels. And I really, really like that. I've Loved These Days is a great song too. Just a really great album. My number 4 is, for me, I think, the underrated gem in the Billy Joel catalogue. I love this album, and it probably comes in a fair bit lower on a lot of people's rankings. And again, I get that, but I just really, really enjoy this album. It's his 3rd album from 1974, and that is Street Life Serenade. I just really love this album. I mean, it starts off with Street Life Serenader, beautiful song. And then you've got the wonderful rocking Los Angelinos, really great. You've got the Great Suburban Showdown. You've got a couple of really good instrumentals on this album. The first one is Root Beer Rag, which is really great, rollicking, enjoyable. Roberta's a great song. Then on side 2, or it's called One Side and Another Side on this album, you have probably my favourite Billy Joel song of all time, which is The Entertainer. I love this song musically and lyrically. I mean, musically, it's just great. I love the synthesizer in it and the acoustic guitar, and you even get a bit of banjo. It's a wonderful rocking song. But then the lyric is sort of about being in the entertainment industry, being a musician. And it somehow manages to simultaneously be self-aggrandizing and self-deprecating. It's humorous, it's tongue-in-cheek. It's just a wonderful lyric. Absolutely love that song. Last of the Big Time Spenders is great. Weekend Song Souvenir. And then you get the other instrumental, The Mexican Connection, which I absolutely love as well. Fabulous album. I really think this is the underrated, overlooked gem, as I say, in the Billy Joel catalogue. And if you're not familiar with this album and you're into Billy Joel, go search this album out and have a listen, because it's really, really good. My number 3 is going to be his album from 1983, and that is An Innocent Man. This is a wonderful, light-hearted album, sort of done in a late 50s, early 60s, sort of pre-Beatles sound. I know a lot of people probably won't rank this one as highly because they'll think it's a bit of a lightweight album. I just absolutely adore this album. I grew up with this album. My little sister and I used to listen to this album all the time. My mother owned a copy of it, which was quite unusual because my mother mostly listened to classical and folk music. She didn't listen to pop or rock at all, but she owned this album. And we used to listen to it all the time. And I love every song on this album. Easy Money, great opening track. An Innocent Man is absolutely beautiful, as is The Longest Time, mostly a cappella, just with a little bit of bass in it as well. And the finger clicks, of course. This Night is a really lovely, majestic song with a chorus that he's lifted from, but attributed to, Ludwig van Beethoven. Tell Her About It, massive hit for him, great song. Then side 2, Uptown Girl. I know a lot of people hate that song. I don't understand why. I think it's just so much fun. Great song. Careless Talk. Yeah, lovely. Christy Lee, really good fun, really up-tempo rocker, that one. Leave a Tender Moment Alone is a lovely ballad. And then Keeping the Faith is a great song to close the album. Just a terrific album, so much fun. And what's wrong with an album that's just fun, as far as I'm concerned? And that's what this album is. It's great. My number 1 and my number 2 were really, really close. In the end, I've gone with my number 2 being his album from 1980, which is Glass Houses. I really like this album. This is an album that I think he was influenced by sort of the new wave and that sort of thing that was going on. It's a really up-tempo rocking album for a lot of it. I mean, it starts with the massive hit You May Be Right, which is really great. Sometimes a Fantasy, I think, is a fabulous song. Don't Ask Me Why is really great. It's Still Rock and Roll to Me. And All for Lena. I mean, just side 1 there. Just all killer, no filler. Absolutely brilliant. Side 2, a little more subdued, but I still think there's really good songs on side 2. I Don't Want to Be Alone is great. Sleeping with the Television On. C'était Joy. I can't pronounce French, but You Were the One. That's beautiful. He sings some of the lyrics in French as well. Close to the Borderline and Through the Long Night. Just a really great album, lots of really good songs, and I think the fact that it is his album where he is sort of influenced by the new wave ranks it more highly for me because I was a new wave boy to start with. That was sort of the first music I ever got into as a youngster. So yeah, but my number 1, it's probably a cliched choice, but I just think it's undeniably his best album, and that is his album from 1977, The Stranger. I mean, any song that starts off with Anthony's song, Moving Out, just, great song. And then you have the title track, just one of his absolute classics. I mean, this album was the one that absolutely commercially made him a superstar. You know, he'd had a hit with Piano Man, but the next couple of albums didn't do so well. This was the album that completely broke through for him. I think it sold something like 10 million copies in the US alone. So just massive. Just the Way You Are. Won him 2 Grammy Awards. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous ballad. Scenes from Italian Restaurant. What a wonderful character study this song is. And musically, it's almost prog in a way, how it goes through sort of 3 or 4 different movements within the space of sort of a 7-minute song. Love it. Absolutely great. Vienna is really good. Only the Good Die Young, another sort of really popular song for him. She's Always a Woman is a beautiful ballad. Get It Right the First Time and Everybody Has a Dream. Just top to bottom, an incredible album. So that's my Billy Joel ranking. To go through them again from starting at the top and going back. At number 1, we have The Stranger. At number 2, Glass Houses. At number 3, An Innocent Man. At number 4, Street Life Serenade. At number 5, Turnstiles. At number 6, 52nd Street. At number 7, The Nylon Curtain. At number 8, Piano Man. At number 9, we have Cold Spring Harbor. At number 10, Stormfront. At number 11, The Bridge. And at number 12, still a good album, River of Dreams. So that's my Billy Joel ranking. I'd love to know what your ranking is in the comments below. If you want to rank the whole catalogue, that'd be great. If you just want to give me your top 5. Tell me where you agree with me on my ranking. Tell me where you disagree. I love hearing the ones where you have completely different opinions to the albums, because as I've said in other videos, sometimes it makes me go back and listen to these albums with a fresh set of ears and hear what you're hearing in those albums. Let me know if you like which are your favourite Billy Joel songs, you know. I mean, my favourite, as I said, is The Entertainer. Absolutely adore that song. But there's so many great Billy Joel songs. Please like, share and subscribe. It really does help the channel out. If you're new to the channel, please go and have a look at some of my other videos. I have a bunch of other videos. I have a bunch of these studio albums ranked shows, which you can find in a playlist. All of my videos are playlisted, so if you want to watch my studio albums ranked shows, there's a playlist for that. If you want to watch my anniversary album shows, there's a playlist for that. All my reviews, playlist. My favourite albums of all time, my In Defense Of, all playlisted for ease of being able to navigate which videos you'd like to watch. If you want to follow me on social media, I'm at bicyclelegs on Instagram and Twitter. On Instagram, I'm mostly posting the albums I happen to be listening to at the time and my latest arrivals that I've got for my collection, as well as posting channel updates. On Twitter, I talk about anything and everything, but I am definitely trying to give that more of a music focus. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.